Okay, good news, bad news, folks. I think we had perhaps a miscommunication between time zones. So we were supposed to have Holly Gans from Animal Biome talk about chronic digestive disorders in pets. And we have not been able to get a hold of her, and she has not signed on yet. So we will see if she appears from nowhere. In the meantime, I have asked another guest to sign on. So we're waiting for her to come on, and we're going to talk about something a little bit different, but we can still definitely revolve around food and digestive disorders. Yeah, I'm hoping it's just Holly's on the West Coast, and it could have just been a miscommunication in time zone. So if we get a hold of her, we may just reschedule her for tomorrow. And we'll definitely send you out a time for that if that's what we end up doing. So I will talk a little bit about chronic digestive disorders just from my own perspective. And it really revolves around everything that we've been talking about so far, which is having a healthy microbiome. And that's what Animal Biome is all about. And I really liked what Dr. Tobias was talking about today, in that there really aren't all these allergic pets. And I get emails from people saying, what do I feed my dog if he can't eat protein? Well, you can't feed a diet without protein, really. So they'd have to live on carbohydrates and fats, and plants have some protein in them. So dogs and cats are meant to eat meats. They are meant to eat proteins, and even plants. I mean, oats, that's a great source of protein. So it's almost impossible to have an animal that cannot eat proteins. So it's a little distressing to me when people say, well, my animal cannot eat any protein. What it really says to me, and this goes back to a great discussion we had with Maria Ringo at our last Natural Pet Summit, which she was talking about all these animals with gut disorders. And we were talking about it kind of in the context of really good, healthy food, as well as natural probiotics, prebiotics, digestive enzymes. Can dogs be vegan? They can, but it's really not good for them. Really not good for them. That's not what they're meant to be. Can they survive? Yes. Do they thrive? They really do not. So a lot of times soy will be put into those foods because it is a high protein plant material, but it's not really something that our dogs do that great of a job of digesting and thriving on. So what Maria had said during that summit was that when you have these animals who are having so much trouble digesting things, it means their gut microbiome, the bacteria that live in there, are such a mess that they're reacting to everything. Everything that comes in there is a foreign invader, and that's why they are reacting so poorly. What set them up to have that horrible reaction to everything to begin with? Well, that was all the extra vaccines that sent their immune system into hyperdrive. Like Peter said earlier today, these animals quite commonly, especially the dogs, cats a little bit less, but dogs in particular, by the time they finish their puppy series that a traditional veterinarian is going to give them, they're getting 20 to 30 different vaccine components shot at them over a period of about 8 to 10 weeks. And their little immune systems kind of go, oh, I can't do that. I don't know what to do. And so the immune system starts reacting to everything like it's foreign. Then we start feeding foods that are what I call dead foods, and they've got synthetic vitamins and minerals added back into them to try to actually get the vitamin and mineral levels up to where AFCO or NRC says that they need to be. So, but it's a synthetic product. And again, that's a foreign material. And the body says, wait, that's not a real thing. That's not from nature. That's an invader. I'm going to make a big reaction to that. And so it does. So now we've got this immune system that is overreacting to everything. So then when we do put something healthy in there, real whole food, it's still saying, whoa, whoa, I don't know what to do with this. And so it reacts. There we go. Here's our special guest. She's connecting to audio. And yeah, you'll get your audio on there. She can speak to this as well because she's dealt with a lot of dogs with GI issues. We got the tech support. We're technically challenged. This is when you know you have a good friend, when you can text them and say, hey, what are you doing right now? You get an immediate answer. So it's not that shocking when we have these animals with all these digestive upsets where, we've got these diarrhea problems, we're not tolerating different proteins, just all kinds of different things that are going on. And we'll get there. Tonight is technical difficulty 101. So what we need to do is we have to get these animals reset back to zero. We've got to detox things. We've got to give them healthy gut microbiome. And that's really what animal biome is all about. It's looking at how things are out of balance, looking at that stool sample, figuring out how things are out of balance, and then figuring out what we need to add back in to figure out how do we reset that. So do we need to add in more fiber, for instance? And this is one of the problems that we sometimes see with dogs who are on a prey model raw diet that aren't getting any fiber added in. Sometimes we need to add fiber so that we are growing some of the gut bacteria that are not there in a high enough number to support what the immune system needs. Sometimes we need to decrease the amount of carbohydrates in the diet because the carbohydrates are feeding the wrong bacteria in the gut. So it's not always quite as simple as, hey, I'll just take a probiotic, because depending on the probiotic that you're using, you might be using something that is a very narrow range. So sometimes people will choose a probiotic that literally has one species of bacteria in it. And that's not what the gut needs. The gut needs, like Billy was saying, billions and billions and billions of probiotic cells. And it needs to be from a lot of different genuses of bacteria. So a lot of people, when we first started looking at let's get probiotics into our dogs, a lot of people would say, can I just use my aspergillus? Or I'll feed yogurt, which just has aspergillus added to it. And that's not what you need. That's not going to be, we're going to try again with the audio. Yay!
So, long drive.
Okay, yeah, long drive. So for those of you who do not know who I just invited on board, this is Michele Allen, and that was her husband, Jeff, who was helping us out with tech. Michele and Jeff are the founders and, I don't know, chief bottle washers, cooks, cleanup crew, you name it, for Monkey's House. Michele, for those who don't know about Monkey's House, I'm going to let you introduce Monkey's House and those kids on the wall behind you and what you're all about.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We founded Monkey's House in 2015 after Judy and I met and became friends, and I learned more about nutrition and the importance that it played in quality of life, in wellness in general, and how it could take a dog that had 10 really big bad things wrong with it. And while we couldn't fix those things, the dogs are pretty darn happy with nutrition. So what we do is we pull dogs with terminal diagnoses from shelters, and we get them great vet care. They see specialists if they need it. We do rehab. We get them whatever they need to have a good quality of life. And one of the biggest impacts to do that is nutrition. So everybody here is on a home cooked or a raw diet. I say fresh because it's all fresh. And we add the twist of traditional Chinese traditional Chinese, oh gosh, food therapy.
Food therapy, thanks.
Food therapy.
I'd have gotten you there.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, those books behind her, I read them and she helped me out. So it's when everyone was talking about earlier about feeding and how much it takes for the dogs that are on site, it could take 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. And I view it as a therapy. I view it as important as everything else that we do for them because it packs such a punch.
It really does. Betty, who asked a question, your vet put your dog on ProViable. ProViable is a decent probiotic, and I have no problem with using that one. Most veterinarians use Fortiflora made by Purina, and I do not like that one because it has Animal Digest in it, which is a rendered product and has a pretty high chance of having pentobarbital, which is euthanasia solution in it. So we don't recommend that one. Plus it's a chicken base. And so a lot of dogs don't do well with it. But ProViable is okay. So Michele, most of the dogs that you get in, they all have a terminal diagnosis. So many of them have cancers. You've had quite a few with kidney failure. Almost all of them have dental disease. I mean, I'm going to correct that. All of them have dental disease.
Yeah.
And most of them have some sort of heart disease as well.
Yes. And you know, it's funny in unraveling all their issues, it seems like all of them have a food sensitivity or multiple food sensitivities, and they've lived a life with inflammation, and that's how they get here. And when we talk about kidney failure, what I thought was kidney failure in 2015 is not what I think is kidney failure now. And we've had dogs, as a matter of fact, Buck, I mean, when he came in 2015, he had every major thing you could think of wrong. He had all of that and was with us several years, and his kidney failure actually had improved. We didn't fix his kidneys, but his kidneys were able to function fully when supported on the supplements and the diet. And so now I see people get so discouraged, and we just got to change the name. You know, people say, oh my goodness, my dog didn't eat for a few days. I took it to the vet and they're in kidney failure. How could this happen? And I'll say, whoa. let's, can you get your labs? There's still time, unless they've gotten into something, something toxic, or they have other things that are expediting, that are expediting the kidney disease. It's not over.
Exactly. And we have found that even these dogs that are coming in with kidney failure, we're still able to feed them a raw diet. We're still able to feed them a high meat diet. We really don't have to modify that until they're pretty late stage where we start to modify things. Because we're talking about, we're going to try to stick a little bit on topic as far as the digestive issues and the microbiome. You brought to me a Labrador very early on, and he was a foster dog. He was not a monkey's house dog. And he had some of the worst allergies we had ever seen. I remember what he looks like. I don't remember his name, and Zippy. And I said, why would you foster this dog? And your answer was, I needed a challenge. I need to learn about allergies. So I figured this was a good way to learn.
I mean, really, for me, that's the best way and what a teacher he was, because along that journey, I mean, we had taken him down to a single ingredient of raw rabbit, and we kept trying to advance him, and we couldn't get his itching down. And I kept thinking that the Benadryl was making him itchy. Like he was on a bunch of meds, and I'm a nurse. Benadryl does not make people itchy. Well, at 3 o'clock in the morning, when a 94-pound lab is itchy, you do strange things. And I Googled Benadryl, and he was on the name brand. And what was in the ingredient in the gel capsule or the caplet, whatever you would call the capsule, was a citric acid. And I thought citric acid is what burns when you cut an orange. And no, it's a chicken byproduct preservative. And I was so mad. I was so mad. Like, how could they do this? And this was, I mean, every foster mom is passionate about their dogs, every foster mom. But I thought, I'm not even like a human mom, and I'm so mad at the deceptive practice of Benadryl. And we switched him to a CVS generic caplet, and he had no more problems. And then we could move forward. And then I think we allergy tested him, and he was still slipping back, getting itchy, getting yeasty, like kind of, it was a great learning experience. It seems like the more frustrated you get when you find your way through, you know, it's pretty cool. But I think I went to see you do a talk on nutrition somewhere, and you were talking about the RX minerals, which I was using to supplement the stews and stuff I was making. And it was sea-based. And he was allergic. He wasn't like allergic to seaweed or to shellfish. He was allergic to anything that lived in water. Like, he's just allergic to it all. And that was like a, kind of like there is no such thing as white powder. There is no such thing as a pill. You have to know what's in every single thing when you have a dog with that many allergies and sensitivities.
Yeah, and it is kind of amazing. We do use the RX minerals a lot because it's a sea-based natural product for calcium. You can use ground eggshells, you can use bone meal, you can use raw meaty bones. There's a lot of ways to get your calcium supplementation in. But early on, I started working with the RX vitamins products and with the company, and I liked what they were doing. And Rob Silver, who does a lot of Dr. Rob Silver, who does a lot of their formulations, is an amazing man, and you know, an amazing brain. But it wasn't until I was in Michigan and I saw a Doberman out there, and I was helping her with diet. I can't even remember what the dog's problem was. And he was like that with a sea, you know, anything that lived in water was going to cause a problem for this dog. And so she was making the food and she was using the RX minerals, and the dog got diarrhea. And I said, man, that is so unusual. I can't imagine that it's causing it, but let's just stop it for a few days, see if it clears up, and then restart. So if you think that something's causing a problem, if you want to prove it, you stop it. And then when you get things back to normal, you have to restart it. And if they have the same problem, you go, well, that was it. And so she did that. And son of a gun, this dog could not tolerate the RX minerals. He didn't. So your dog got itchy on it. This dog got loose stool on it. And I actually talked to the makers at RX Vitamins, and I said, hey, this is the first time I've heard of this. Are you guys hearing this at all? And they said, no, we've never had anybody report that. Well, I can tell you that now that I've been working with these products and doing diets and things for a lot of years, it is a real thing. And we do have some dogs that just cannot tolerate it. And a lot of times when those dogs are tested, we find out that, gee, maybe they have a salmon allergy, they have a whitefish allergy, that they can't tolerate fish oils. Somebody was talking about that. I don't know if it was in one of the chats today or if it was on Facebook or something, but somebody was talking about, you know, look, I'm having a hard time getting these omegas into, maybe it was when I was talking to Peter, having a hard time getting omegas into my dog because he can't do anything water-based and, you know, things that come from the water. So it can be quite challenging. So when you have animals that have chronic itchiness or chronic stool or digestive problems, you really have to look at every single thing that you're using, whether it's, so with that dog and with many of the dogs that I work with and cats too, a lot of times when I'm trying to calm down the gut, we go, okay, rabbit. I don't care if it's cooked. I don't care if it's raw, rabbit, single ingredient rabbit. It's not in most dog foods or cat foods. And so it is a novel protein and it is one of the least reactive. So I would generally start there. But when you have a dog like Zippy and you do that and he's still just as itchy, or you've made a little bit of progress, but really not what you think you should, and you're giving medications or supplements, then you have to start looking at every one of those. And so what was the final, I think in the long run, we did pretty well with him.
Yeah, he actually passed just recently, and he had an incredible life. And when he went to his forever home, I was getting him out of the car, and I was very honest about every single thing there was. He came with some food, some his records and everything. And they said, okay, how do we remember what he's allergic to? And I said, it's really easy. He's allergic to everything. But you know, it was funny because I live on a farm. I have free range chickens. That means we walk on the grass a lot, and that there's chicken poop. You know, that there's chicken stuff everywhere. And he, in a development, they could walk him on the sidewalk. They could do a lot more to keep him comfortable than I could do. And what I found here was that he would get worse, and then he'd get over the hump. You know, spring would come, and it would be like, oh my goodness. And really, when you have a dog that's that bad, every time they start itching or biting at something, you have to address it right away. It's not like, oh, again, this is happening every night. You have to kind of address it right away. But he did quite well in life.
Yeah, and again, it does really boil down so much to getting their gut right. So for instance, Myra, this little girl here, I have her, she's in the book. There's pictures of her skin in the books. I have posters of her. I mean, her skin is quite popular in pictures because when she came to us, she had red, raw alligator skin everywhere. She had some hair. And if you looked at her from a really long way away, you might go, oh, that's a cute little fluffy Bichon-y type dog. She was a Cavachon. But when you actually got close to Myra, and particularly if you held her up and looked under the armpits and looked at the belly, all you saw were big scratches where she was scratching with her nails, red, thick alligator skin, thickened ear canals, wax just clogging those ear canals. And she was given up because, one, she was peeing on the carpet. Two, it was costing money to try to fix these things. And they didn't have the money to take her to the vet and get those things fixed. So she wasn't getting those things fixed. And if they did go, they'd get a course of antibiotics that they would use half of and save the other half for later. So nothing ever really got solved. And so when she came and I did her initial workup, we found that she had a bladder full of oxalate bladder stones. So peeing on the carpet, she had a good reason. So we took care of that. And then I made a homemade diet for her. She came with, she was being fed a grocery store brand kibble. And the owner thought actually that she was buying a really high quality kibble. The owner just wasn't educated in what needed to be done for this little dog. And so I made her a homemade diet, and I thought, well, okay, I'm going to put her on something that would probably be novel. So I chose pork because rabbit's just harder to get, harder to cook and debone. It's a bigger pain. I said, well, I'll try pork. It's cooling. It's fairly novel. I don't think she's had it. I put her on a pork-based diet. She did so well, so well. And within 6 months, we had zero skin issues. And I did allergy test her and, lit up the fireworks for chicken allergies, beef allergies, all these grain allergies. But I can tell you that after 1 year, so after 6 months, we had beautiful skin. We were growing hair. The ears were completely cleaned up. The stones were gone. And within 1 year, I said, well, now I'm going to do a challenge. And I made her a homemade chicken-based meal. Never a problem. Never broke out. So she did not have a true allergy to chicken. It's just that she was eating a chicken-based, really low quality food, and her immune system was in overdrive. And we just needed to pull back and get away from what she had been exposed to, that her body was just chronically exploding about. So there is, what happened to Holly Gans? We don't know. We think there's a time zone issue because she's on the West Coast and we're on the East Coast. And if she's going to sign on at 7 o'clock her time, I will be long gone.
In bed. Yeah.
I will be very, very asleep by then. So you get a bonus. Yeah, you get me and Michele Allen from Monkey's House. So we're talking about, so somebody says, I have a Cavachon that has terrible tear stains. Could that be digestive issue or allergy related? No eye structure issues that we can see. So Michele, do you have I have some recommendations. What do you tell people when they're complaining about the eye stains?
I always ask first off what their vet thinks, because I want to make sure they're using a vet. So sometimes we can get the stains to go away by adding kefir to their food. I recently was told by a groomer that they can put kefir externally on the.
Interesting.
They can
And so this actually plays exactly into what I generally recommend, which is we need to find the right probiotic and we need to get the microbiome to be correct, because the tear stains are really just the bacteria that are in the tear film that are staining the eye or the fur. So kefir works because if we all remember what kefir is, it's a fermented product. And so it has tons and tons of bacteria, the good bacteria in there. And using it topically, that's quite interesting.
I found out, I mean, she was saying there's nothing structurally wrong with the eye, but generally if it's in one eye, there is a problem with the eye. And if the vet can't find anything right now, wait a few weeks. That
So somebody sent me a picture of their little white-faced dog, and they were doing all the right things. It was raw diet, they had probiotics, this, that, and the other thing. And I mean, this dog was just wet and dark brown. And so I asked, has your veterinarian ever flushed the tear ducts or made sure that the tear ducts actually work? And she said, oh, no. So that is something that your veterinarian can do. They actually, the little drain is in the corner of the eye and it goes down inside the nose. Easiest way to tell whether they're working is put a drop of the dye, the fluorescein dye that we use to see corneal ulcers, put a drop in the eye, it should come out the nostril. So check each one. And if it doesn't come out the nostril, the tear duct is blocked. And so it's spilling over. If the tear duct is blocked, then you've got to figure out, can it be opened? Sometimes when they're born, they have a little film or a little piece of skin over it, and that can be opened up. Sometimes they have so much swelling. If they have a conjunctivitis or some sort of an allergy thing, there's so much swelling that the opening is closed. So it is often overlooked. So while they might not see something structural as far as, extra eyelashes or, no corneal dye, make sure that they're checking that the tear ducts are actually working. Okay. You heard you can use kefir externally too for itching, spray it on them. It makes good sense. Because there now are shampoos and topical sprays that have probiotics in them. There's a couple companies doing that. I haven't tried them yet. Does iron affect tear stains? It potentially could if you have like well water that's very heavy metals. I would think that would potentially be a problem. Somebody talking about their Nutriscan test and the dog's allergic to a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's pretty common. Okay, so here's one that I'm going to complain about. I was feeding my dog cooked protein with veggies mixed in and rice. It seemed to help with the diarrhea, but then we took him to the vet and he said his protein levels were too high, and now your dog is back on kibble. Protein levels in the blood test or protein levels in the food? Because my dogs are raw fed, and that means they're on 80% meat, bone, and organ, and only 20% vegetables. So that's a pretty high protein diet. Veterinarians get really wigged out about high protein diets.
And here we've pulled up 122 dogs to date, I think. And that means I've transitioned 122 dogs onto raw or lightly cooked. And we had one 2.5-year-old that was in stage 4 kidney failure. The rest are all pretty darn old and pretty darn sick. And every single one of them did fine on straight, all provide straight out of the bag. And it's the need to tweak things with TCBM where I start to get kind of, individualized, that they need.
Very individualized.
Very individualized. Very individualized.
When you open Michelle's refrigerator, Michelle, describe some of the things that are in your refrigerator, because it's really quite interesting. It's not, Jeff, by the way, gets stale cereal with
milk if he's lucky.
Milk.
Lucky, if he's lucky. So it depends where I am in my refrigerator cycle. But right now we've got rabbit stew in there. We've got some ground pork organs. I have the dogs that get the lightly cooked all provide. It's in gigantic containers. We have 3 we have two giant freezers with all provide, and then individualized, novel proteins and organs, and then two half freezers for all of that stuff. So it's packed. And then in the vegetable bins, there's one that says dog veggies, and that stuff is all organic. It's all like dark greens or bright orange. It's all the best stuff, and all the rest is like eggs, occasional apple, but all the good stuff is in the dog bin. So that's where you want to eat. I think you found tripe pudding here one time, or tripe jello.
Yeah, tripe gelatin was, I opened the refrigerator and I was like, what is that? It was a bowl of tripe gelatin. So tell us why you use that. It actually is incredibly healing, but why?
Well, you know what was so neat was one of the dogs that joined us here. He joined us in the end, actually, I think in stage 4 kidney failure, and he backed up with stuff and did better. And then he started to do worse again. And, in trying to, I said you were doing keto when keto wasn't cool, but we were headed that way with him. And I found that things that were warm and stinky made him want to eat. So I would use this tripe juice that had been slightly heated, and it would turn into a gelatinous thing. I would make an omelet for him and then stick this over top as like a flavor enhancer, and he loved it. And I found that a lot of my kidney dogs do amazing with tripe, whether it's the fresh raw tripe, or if it's even like a dehydrated tripe stick. That seems to be something that's like a universal kidney dog food.
Well, it is. And one of the reasons, and tripe is in the book, and your tripe jello recipes in there. But the kidney diets, we commonly use tripe because it is, for a dog who's in later stages of kidney failure, their phosphorus levels will start to rise because the kidneys are not clearing the phosphorus. And so you can put them on phosphate binders to help with that, but a lot of them don't like it. It's hard to get in them. But meat is too high in phosphorus and too low in calcium. So these guys are really out of whack. And we have to keep their calcium levels up. Otherwise, that phosphorus becomes toxic in their system. Tripe is the closest you will come to getting the calcium phosphorus balance, what it really needs to be, without having to add a bunch of phosphate binders and other things in. And I've had some clients who have just been amazing with their dogs in kidney failure, and they are cooking tripe and kidney stew, which is about the smelliest thing you could ever cook. Somebody said they had it cooking in their slow cooker out on their picnic table outside, and they still couldn't stand it.
It's vile. It's a really vile smell. But when you have a dog that doesn't want to eat, and then all of a sudden they're cleaning the plate and they're looking at you for more, you get over it very fast. You really do. It's a miracle food.
I have had it in my freezer. I have fed it. I have ground it. I've never had a dog with advanced kidney failure. And my dogs live, as you know, most of them live to be 17, 18, 19, unless they develop something really odd. And I've never had one go into kidney failure. Even my cats, my old cats, have not gone into kidney failure. And I think it's because they spend a longer period of time on the high moisture diets. And for instance, a lot of the monkey's house dogs that come in, when they're seen at the shelter, some of them are given a kidney failure diagnosis, and then we switch their diet around, and it's like, oh, look at that. He's not really.
Yep. Yep. It's amazing what senior dogs need. They need attention. They need to be monitored. They need all of the blood work. They need amazing veterinary care. But you would be you would be amazed at what changes by just putting them on a good diet and waiting 2 weeks. And that used to be one of the things. If they were stable enough, I would wait 2 weeks before I brought them down to see you, because I wanted to see what was going to go away and what was my real concerns. But sometimes they couldn't wait.
Yeah.
I love that.
Lamb tripe is like beef tripe mixed with blue cheese, extra pungent. See, I can't even stand the smell of lamb. So yeah, that would do me in. Do cats need different biome support than dogs? They do need biome support. And I think, and that will be a good question for Holly when we get her. I think that their gut bacteria are very similar in a lot of ways, but there probably are some differences in that cats really are obligate carnivores, and they really need a lot less fiber in their diet and a lot less vegetable matter. They can get away with a lot less. I do find that cats, even because my cats all eat, for the most part, freeze-dried raw. They, for some reason, don't like the frozen raw, but they're very good with freeze-dried, and I just rehydrate the heck out of it. But when I have them on prey model when they're not getting much fiber in their food, I do get more hairball issues with them. So that's when we look at things like, okay, well, we got to get some fiber from somewhere. So the coconut chips, Cocoa Therapy makes a finely ground coconut, which is their hairball therapy, but it's really just ground coconut. And that will usually solve the problem because they need that fiber to move the hair on through and get things going. Would canned tripe be okay? Well, don't worry, Diane, you're going to get this in your email. Canned tripe can be fine, but what I have found is a lot of the canned tripe has carrageenan in it, and you don't want to feed anything with carrageenan in it because if you're having a biome problem, a microbiome problem, or a gut issue problem, carrageenan is going to just send it over the edge, really be a problem for them. What other issues do we have a lot? Do you get, you know what you do? You get a ton of allergy dogs as well.
I'm blessed.
But overall, yeah, pumpkin would be a good fiber source. Overall, wouldn't you say that even the allergy dogs with the diet changes that you make, it makes a huge difference for them? I mean, isn't that like a critical part in the getting to where you need to be?
Yes, it is. And it's funny because sometimes you look at their skin and you're just like, ugh. And then you look at a picture 4 months later, and you can still tell that they're an allergy dog. They're not cured, but they're better. But they're walking better, they're playing, their stamina has improved. It's a lot of things that stop aching, and it just improves their quality. And I can't say enough about how much it impacts them. And what's neat is I'm working with old dogs who can't do steps, can't see, can't hear. They have a whole list of can'ts. And you change their diet, and next thing you know, they just walked up the 4 steps of the deck. And you're like, well, why would raw beef make them be able to walk up the steps? And it's not the raw beef that's causing it to happen. It's the lack of inflammation. It's making the joints feel better. And you and I have talked about switching them when they come to, people talk about, switching their diet over 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or they're still working on it. That whatever we're having for dinner is what they're going to get. So their switch happens pretty instantaneously.
Yeah, Michelle's like me. There's not a bunch of bins of dry kibble.
No, there's zero.
Exactly. So if you come in expecting dry kibble, you're not going to get it. Like, we can't do that change.
No, but anything fresh, I've got. But what's amazing is they can come here acutely ill, and I think just by getting a little bit of the inflammation out of their body, or what I as a dieter have known all my life is water weight. I would clean out my refrigerator by kind of eating my way through right before starting Weight Watchers on a Monday. And the following Monday, I will have lost 10 pounds. And they'll say, but it's just water weight. You need to, keep going. But what I think is going on is that we're getting rid of some of this inflammation. And you get, in a human, it takes 1 mile of capillaries to oxygenate and perfuse a pound of fat. And so if we're cutting, if we're cutting even just a little bit of that, we're taking stress off the heart. It can focus its energy on the kidneys, on the liver, on the brain. And I think it buys us a tiny bit of time while we get stuff fixed. While we get them to the cardiologist and start them on meds, they're going to improve their contractility or decrease the pressure in their lungs. And I think it all works together to get us miracles, really.
Yeah, it really does. With early stage kidney, is raw tripe okay? Absolutely. Which vegetables are safe for kidney senior dogs? Any vegetables that are safe for any other dog? Veggies are fine. Somebody wanted to know where you get your tripe sticks.
Amazon. They're on our wish list. We get anything that's sourced from the USA or from South America. That's the two sourcing places.
The name of the blog, well, your website is monkeyshouse.org.
Yes.
Correct. Yes. Okay. Tripe be okay for kidney disease cats? Yeah, if they'll eat it, absolutely. Okay. Is pumpkin safe and sweet potatoes and barley and rice? Well, I don't feed grains. Occasionally we'll use barley for its draining properties. I don't use rice for my dogs. I just think it's too inflammatory. I use a lot of pumpkin. I don't feed any potatoes, including sweet potatoes. Some dogs do okay with them, but I'm just not a fan of legumes and potatoes and starchy things. I do use a lot of butternut squash because I do like to color the rainbow, and that's where I get my orange from, but I could just as easily use pumpkin. Let's see. Somebody asked if dry kibble is hard on the gut. Well, my answer to that is dry kibble is a dead food because it's been cooked. First of all, the sourcing is commonly questionable. There are some companies that are using like real meats, but it's hard to find something that's using human grade products in there. But kibble, by its very nature, is very hard, hot, and dry, hot energetically, because it runs through an extruder, which uses very, very high heat to squeeze the moisture out, and then it's formed into a long tube, and then a die comes and cuts it off into the little kibble pieces, and it's dead food. And then it has these synthetic vitamins added into it. Now, there are some companies that are a little better than others, but if you think about feeding your pet a piece of let's say a chicken thigh, high in moisture, gonna digest just like it would for us. Then take that chicken thigh, squeeze all the moisture out of it, make it into a hard pellet, put a bunch of synthetics in there and a bunch of grains and carbohydrates to hold it together. And then your dog gobbles that down. And now we've got these hard chunks sitting in the stomach that the stomach now has to add juice, add the acid, has to break it down. That's much more work for the body to do. And it has to keep adding moisture because kibble is about 6% moisture versus that chicken thigh is 75 to 80% moisture. Huge difference. And so what we find is for the animals that are eating dry kibble, they drink a lot more water. They have a very concentrated urine and are much more likely to make crystals in their urine and therefore stones. They're much more likely to have kidney issues because the kidneys are part of, from a Chinese medicine perspective, the kidneys are part of the water element, the water system. They run on water. And if you're not taking in enough moisture in your diet, and the body is constantly having to put the moisture into it to break it down and digest it, it's a lot more work for the body. So my answer to that is yes. it's harder on the body to process that. And then somebody asked, Michelle, have you ever had dogs with liver issues? And I know we've had a lot of high liver enzymes.
So many. We've had so many. I've got one right now that he's got a mass on his liver, but it actually goes down his whole right side. And we're having trouble stabilizing his coags, so we really can't go further than that. He's a newly diagnosed diabetic that's been all over the place. And we're kind of hypothesizing that maybe the cancer is affecting the pancreas and it's not actually true diabetes from problems with the pancreas. With the problems with the pancreas producing insulin. And he's just been hard to control with everything that's going on. But we have seen every kind of kidney issue that there is. And one of them that comes to mind that has never really left me was a little white poodle named Sugar, who was in foster in South Jersey. And at the foster home, she started vomiting and getting diarrhea. And I asked her to bring her to your office right away. And you guys did blood work. And then she finished out her quarantine and came up here. And the foster brought the dog in and was sitting on the sofa and said, those people at Clayton are really, really nice. But do you know how many nice vet offices are between there and here? You wouldn't have to drive that far. And with that, the phone rings. And I'm told that she's in acute liver failure. Because they asked me to look at her eyes, look at her tongue, look at everything, see if anything was yellow. Told me to give her fluids. We put her on hepato support. She was switching to, at that point, all provide. And we were going to get an ultrasound and then see what comes next. And first off, that's a pretty cool thing because all 5 markers were way off. And you guys gave me instructions. Like you didn't say, let her be out in the sun today, kiss her, tell her you love her. No, you gave me homework. Like that's how I cope doing this, is that there's a lot that can be done between now and sitting in the sunshine. And within 6 weeks, her liver enzymes came back to normal. And I remember you were away and one of your associates came in and he closed the door and he said, "What did you do to this dog?" And I said, "Exactly what you guys said." and he said, "Everything is normal." And I said, "Could it have been a mistake? Could the blood have sat too long?" He said, "No, like everything was normal, that this had reversed." And I said, "What could cause that?" And he said, she could have been poisoned, but he really didn't think that was the case. And I said, "We have got to tell someone. We've got to tell someone right now that we took a dog that was in kidney failure and changed it."
Liver.
I'm sorry, liver failure, and changed everything with very simple stuff that was, here. And you can't say that living right, eating right, living right, and getting exercise is good for your health. That's not a breaking news story. And it's very true, but she had almost 2 years with us and did not die from any issues from her liver. And that was really impactful to me.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times Michelle, she'll send me a text and go, "Okay, this dog's got this. Which vegetables am I adding to get this to drain or that to change? Which meat is best for that?" And that's where the food therapy is so powerful. Some of these dogs come in with, vomiting, diarrhea, all kinds of GI problems. But as a whole, once you get these guys on their new food regimen, once you figure out what works for each one, you guys really don't deal with chronic GI issues.
No, we don't. They may become chronic towards the end of their life if they have like a lymphoma of their bowel or something like that. But no, everything kind of dials back. And it seems like the nutrition, when they come here and they have so many things wrong and we're racing to get to see the cardiologist, we're trying to do all this, it seems like the food therapy brings us to the point where we can get the dental done. And from there, everything just sort of improves. And every day I'm astounded at, you can take out 14 teeth and the dog is fine the next day, eats all of their dinner that night, all of the breakfast the next morning, and goes for a walk. And dental pain doesn't have a limp. Like if,
Right.
And I think that it should get more credit than it does, because it's pretty amazing how much they improve. The old me would have said, "I'm not going to take 14 teeth out of an old dog's mouth who's got heart disease and kidney disease. Like, why would I do that to him? For the time he has left, he's going to be healing." They're healed before they leave the vet office, I think.
Getting those toxins out of the mouth is so important, because that's just going to the kidneys, going to the heart. It's just really important. And frankly, I have to thank you, Michele, because my Shayna, who is now 15, has really bad mitral valve disease. And our cardiologist for 3 years said, no, she is not strong enough to have anesthesia to clean her teeth. And her teeth were rotting out of her head. And through supplementation, diet, everything I could think of, I finally got her heart in good enough shape that after 3 years, he said, "I think she can have a dental." And I said, "Well, I'm going to bite the bullet, because all these monkey's house dogs that come in with grade 6 murmurs, stage C, stage D, ruptured chordae, like their liver values are terrible. Their kidney values are like, they're such a mess. And yet we still never held back on getting teeth taken care of. And so I finally said, I'm taking my own advice for my own dog. We pulled all but 4 teeth, and she flew through it and she was so painful I couldn't touch her face. And within a day, it was like having a new dog again. I think we literally dialed her heart disease back even more by doing it. So really important. Somebody says, think about the relation between gut health and the brain. There's a huge relation there. Best supplements to help with stress, anxiety, as we are repairing gut health. So certainly supplements that are good for the brain are going to be the omega-3s, are going to be really high on that list. Things to decrease stress. I'm a big fan of CBD. You can go to naturallyhealthyhemp.com for information on that. But I'm a big fan of CBD and a big fan of flower essences. We use a lot of flower essences. We use one called Mellow Out for dog, or there's another one called Easy Does It. So those dogs that are kind of on high alert or really on edge, you can use pheromone collars or the plug-in, the DAP plugins. For some dogs, a Thundercoat or some sort of an anxiety wrap will help them as well, just helping to swaddle them. So lots of different things. Melatonin generally will help some of these as well. Michele, you got any other anxiety busters?
You know what I do a lot with food games, and even just like taking their food, and I'll smush it into a paste in like a NutriBullet and smear it all over a pan and let them take longer to eat, and kind of hunt a little bit with it. Or engage with them. Play a game where you have a stinky treat under a cup and move it around and let them pick which one it is. So the more I engage with them, the more mentally fatigued they become, and I find that helps too.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very easy for us to ignore our seniors and just they just sleep all the time. But the more you mentally engage them, the more mentally astute they are, and they will stay. So it's actually pretty important. That's one of the fun things that Michele does with the Monkey's House dogs, is that they will go to the beach for a road trip. They go walking in the forest. They go for pictures with Santa.
They really do know how to live. They really do party. And it's such a joy to see. I try not to think about their past or how they were when they came here, except for the clinical value of what their issues are. But they don't look back. They really spend every day embracing it and seeing things as good as they can be. And even when it's hard, even when a dog is getting ready to pass, we've had memories that they aren't a stranger, they aren't a number, they aren't not a live release in a shelter. They're a life that matters. We have pictures, we tell their story, and these dogs really do know how to live. They really do.
They do. Do you have a copy of your book there?
I have a copy of your book. Let me just see.
Yeah, I caught her off guard. She wasn't prepped with like all of her stuff there.
I'm gonna say no. I don't have a copy of my book here, but I have your yin and yang.
You're my book. Well, great. We'll promote my book.
I can say go to page 56 in the bottom left-hand corner.
So for those of you who want to learn more about Monkey's House, they do have a Facebook page with just tons of information, pictures of the dogs. Michele talks about what's going on with them and, how she's dealing with some of their issues. And her husband, Jeff, did write a book. It's Where Dogs Go to Live.
Yep.
And it's available on Amazon. And I believe it's also on your website, correct?
Yep. And at any local bookstore, if they can order it, if it's not there.
Okay. So monkeyshouse.org is the website. They have, they do, like most rescues, survive on donations. And Monkey's House is very popular with us when we have sales, particularly over the Cyber Weekend. We generally help raise money for Monkey's House. So now you've seen the face and the name and some of the kids in the background there. It's quite amazing. And literally Jeff and Michele have made their house into a dog house. I think Jeff and Michele get about this much space on one little end of one sofa, and the rest is dogs everywhere. And there are a couple of resident cats, correct?
Grandpa, who is not shy. He'll if you come here and you leave your car door open or your trunk, he's in there. And he'll walk right up to you. If we get a new dog off of quarantine, he'll walk right up to it to see if it's good with cats. And if it's not, he'll take care of that. So Grandpa, and since Grandpa has been here, one of our ferals who's been here longer than he was, has, I'm not going to say she's tame, but she's accepting of our presence. Yeah, our cat Sammy, she passed away at the age of 21 last summer. And
Michelle's highly allergic to cats. So
allergic.
So she doesn't touch her cats.
No, and yet I'm so lucky to get all these really cool cats. So all the volunteers that do touch them seem to enjoy them.
Like them. So for all of you who were expecting to hear Holly Gans, I apologize. I'm sure that it is just a timing issue. And if we can get a hold of her and if we can figure out how to squeeze something in tomorrow, we'll do that and we'll send out an email to let you know. Otherwise, Michele, I thank you. You are a dear friend. Michele has been my middle of the night emergency room contact when I've been dealing with things with my mother, and she's just been absolutely amazing. Funny thing, I got a text from somebody at 4 o'clock this morning because everybody knows that I've been staying up and I actually was asleep.
Oh no.
Oh well, and I have to leave my phone on because, just in case somebody calls, but you have a good friend when you can tap them for nursing information and medical information in the middle of the night and know that they will answer you. And also when you say to them, I need you online in 1 minute. So Michele, thank you very much. Thank you for all that you do with the dogs. It is so greatly appreciated. And you guys just do amazing work. And I'm really honored to call you a friend.
Well, thank you. Same here. So grateful to you and for helping to get Monkey's House going off the ground. And
when she asked me if I would help, I said yes, because I didn't think she'd ever do it and it wouldn't require any work.
There we go. Little did you know. I would make an appointment for 3 dogs to be seen and come with 10. And I would say the other 7 are just visiting. Really appreciate all of it.
It was always fun. I at one point I thought, well, I'm going to retire from clinical practice, but I'll just be the Monkey's House vet and I'll just, go hang out and do things at Michelle's. But then we moved. So sorry.
No, that didn't work out so well for me.
If you want to move Monkey's House south, then we can talk about it. All right. Thank you very much, Michele. Everyone else, we'll see you tomorrow morning. We're starting with Dr. Michele Broadhurst, myofascial pain in the canine patient, which should fit in well with what Dr. Tobias was talking about today. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Everybody have a wonderful evening.